Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. Feedback video, go through some of the comments and have a look at what's happening there in the comment section. Lots of debate on the last video about certain topics. We'll have a look at some of those, and also we'll have a look at what's been happening around the country over the last day or so. I'm feeling a lot better today. Somebody said that I wasn't looking too well. I was looking a bit fatigued. Maybe the 230 plus days of making these videos has got to me, but I'm feeling a lot better today, so feel free to make comments about my appearance. Now yesterday, as expected, the President of Andalusia, Mr. Juanma Moreno, came out and announced more restrictions for that particular autonomous community here in Spain. I think he said that all non-essential businesses need to close down at 6 p.m. He also announced that all municipalities in Andalusia are going to close, and people are not going to be able to leave their municipality unless they have a good reason to do so, I think until the 23rd of November. So a couple of weeks with these confinements in Andalusia. And I believe the restrictions are even stricter in the province of Granada, but the whole of Andalusia are preparing for tougher restrictions. I think in yesterday's video somebody suggested that the closing time for these non-essential businesses was going to be 3 p.m. That wasn't the case. They decided to push it out until 6, obviously because people have late lunches in many parts of Andalusia, especially at the weekend. And of course, if you shut down things at 3 p.m, it would mean a very short lunch for a lot of people. And the government down there in Andalusia obviously thinking that people have enough time to get things done before 6 p.m. I also saw that they announced that schools are going to continue to operate in a face-to-face classroom environment, what they call here clases presenciales, and only university students are going to have to go into a remote learning situation similar to the one that they probably had back earlier in the year. But for primary school and secondary schools in Andalusia, they're going to remain open. And I think it's important that we try to keep schools open for as long as possible. In yesterday's video, I also mentioned a map that you can check to see what the restrictions are in each autonomous community around the country. I'll also leave a link to that map in the description below today as well, because obviously there will be some new changes coming into effect, and I'm sure that that map will be updated. And it's handy to know exactly what you can and can't do in order to avoid those fines that the police are handing out around the country at the moment. Now, a good news story that I read today is apparently that the spread of the virus here in Spain is slowing down. Many autonomous communities have passed the second wave apparently, and as I said, things seem to be slowing down. They mentioned Madrid, of course. Yesterday we spoke about the Madrid miracle, how cases were increasing in other parts of the country, but here in Madrid they were on their way down. Still a little bit difficult to know exactly why this is the case. One newspaper suggests that perhaps it's because Madrid is better prepared this time round, saying that because it was the hardest hit part of Spain during the first wave of the pandemic, then they have been better prepared the second time around. Another reason could be the restrictions. Remember that Madrid was one of the first places to implement restrictions during this second wave. The famous state of alarm when the central government shut the city down for 2 weeks. That could also be one of the reasons. Or maybe it's because a lot of people got it the first time round, and of course they are now immune to the virus. Who knows, but I'm sure the answer is in the middle there somewhere. Now, Portugal is also starting to get strict again as they try to get the health situation under control in that country. I was reading earlier that they have now imposed a nighttime curfew on the majority of the country, and at weekends as well they're deciding to get strict, I think shutting everything down at 1 p.m. So Portugal's starting to get strict as case numbers continue to rise in the country. I read a comment the other day from somebody saying that we're all being played here in Spain, that it's all a big con, and that if you cross the border from Andalusia into Portugal, you can see that there's nothing going on there at all, that everything is rosy and life is normal in Portugal. So funny how the government seems to be cracking down in Portugal then, if, as this person says, Portugal doesn't have a problem. Now we'll move the talk away now from the health situation. There was a few comments about the dubbing system here in Spain, how they dub everything, whether it's films, television series, or even the news. They love to use dubbing instead of putting subtitles down below. Good to see that it's not just me who can't stand watching dubbed films or TV series. A few other people agreed with me on that. I just can't get used to it for some reason. For me, it doesn't seem natural. The dialogue for me doesn't seem natural. If you compare a Spanish movie to an American movie that's been dubbed, for example, the dialogue is completely different. And don't get me wrong, it's not a language issue. I enjoy watching Spanish movies, but I can't watch an American movie or a British movie that has been dubbed into Spanish. I gave up going to the cinema years ago here in Spain because of it, because I couldn't go to those original version cinemas that you have in a city like Madrid in the center. Out here in the suburbs, it's almost impossible to find a cinema that shows original version movies, so I just stopped going. I think movies and TV shows lose their authenticity when they're dubbed into foreign languages. But hey, it's an industry here in Spain, it's a big industry, and most likely there's a lot of actors that earn their living dubbing films. In Portugal, it's completely different. Virtually every movie that you see on Portuguese television is in the original version with Portuguese subtitles down below. The only things that they dub in Portugal are children's programs, but everything else that comes into the country seems to be in original version. And I've often seen in Portugal that if you go into a coffee shop or a bar, they'll have the television on, but the sound will be down, and people will be watching the movie, reading the subtitles and understanding what's going on, whereas here in Spain, you'll go into a bar and the television will be in the corner with the volume turned up to the maximum, because obviously if they can't hear it, they don't know what's going on. And nowadays here in Spain, it isn't a problem like it used to be because of all of the streaming services now available, the Netflixes, the HBOs, Amazon Prime, even Disney has a streaming service now, so it's easy to get access to the content in the original version, not like it was 20 years ago when it was a real nightmare. And hopefully these streaming services like Netflix and HBO are going to continue to offer fantastic content here in Spain. I was reading last week that the government has decided to implement a Netflix tax where they're going to make streaming services like Netflix dedicate 5% of their incomes in this country towards local cinema. I think I also read that they're going to try to force Netflix to provide 30% of their content in Spanish. So I don't know what that's going to mean for content coming from other places, whether we will still be able to get everything here or whether there's going to be limitations. I don't know. So we'll keep an eye on that so-called Netflix tax and see if it does affect the content on streaming services here in Spain. Now, I saw a comment from somebody asking about Spain's reaction to Biden winning the US elections, and I think from a government point of view, they would be quite happy. I think the government's policies in this country would be more in line with those of somebody like Joe Biden rather than Donald Trump. And I think another sector of the population that would be happy with the change are people that export goods from this country to the USA. I think the Trump administration set some fairly high tariffs on imported goods, and of course people here that export wine, oil and other Spanish goods are optimistic that Biden will slash those tariffs, so they're looking forward to the change. I saw somebody else in the comment section say that nobody in Spain cares about the US elections. I don't think that's the case. Everybody that I speak to around the place, all of the students that I have online, are very interested what happens in the United States. I think around the world, people in general are still interested in US politics. And of course, if you read the press here over the last week or so, the majority of it dedicated a lot of pages and a lot of space to the US elections. And of course, we all rode the roller coaster like everybody else around the world. So I'm sure there's lots of people interested to see what type of president Joe Biden will be. And finally, lots of debate about public holidays. I think somebody mentioned that perhaps Spain needs to slash some public holidays. The community seems to be fairly divided on that topic. Some people saying that Spain doesn't have a lot of holidays when compared to other countries. Some people saying that Spain has too many public holidays. I tend to fall into the camp that thinks that there are too many public holidays. I'm self-employed, of course, and every day that I don't work, I don't earn any money. That's why I'm a little bit anti-public holidays, especially the ones that fall in the middle of the week, because I often lose another day, not only the public holiday, as a lot of people decide to take a long weekend. Today, for example, there's a public holiday in Madrid city, in the capital city of Madrid, but there's not a public holiday in the rest of the autonomous community. Or at least there's not a public holiday where I am today. Things are open as normal. People that work in this particular area have to go to work unless they have their public holidays aligned to Madrid capital. But for the people that work and live in this city in the Madrid community, it's business as normal today. But as I say, it is what it is. No point complaining. Just have to get on with life and try to work our way around these public holidays, especially if you're self-employed like me. If you're a salaried worker, fantastic. Go out and enjoy all of the public holidays that we have in this country. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.